The game is over. The emotions are raw. But the takes are ready. It's time for Postgame Live with Jared Stillman.
Holy crap. That was woof. That was bad. 26-0 Texans winners here on Postgame Live. Stillman & Company presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, and our coverage, of course, on Postgame Live right here on the 440 Sports Network. And so the Tennessee Titans again on YouTube, the official Stillman & Company YouTube channel. And as I always tell people, when it comes to the official Stillman & Company YouTube channel, I always say, go subscribe, like, and subscribe today. And for the first time, we are live on the on Twitter, running that at the same time as we'll hit them both. But again, YouTube's kind of where we're going to be at. And holy crap, it's not even a minute long. And it is popping as far as people that are in here on this. So we're going to get your reaction. We'll take Callahan at the podium when he gets up there. Who knows what he's going to say after this fucking disaster of a performance from the Tennessee Titans, which I think we've come to expect. We'll hear what Callahan has to say. We'll hear what Cam Ward has to say because, well, that's kind of what we do on this program is we want to hear what those guys have to say. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled on that one as far as it's concerned. You see I've got right there the YouTube up. I need to remove that from the screen. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll get them up there when they go. Okay, I want to get my thoughts on today's game out there before we hit the post game and before we hit yours. Number one, my biggest take today, and you know me, I try to be as honest, I try to be as transparent as possible. My number one biggest takeaway from today's game, Houston sucks. Again, not to sit here and tell you about the Titans, because the Titans are the worst team in the NFL. And the Titans may go 0-17. It may actually be a possibility, even though this team has way more talent than an 0-17 team. This team might actually go 0-17. That said, I watched that game, at least that first three quarters, and I'm like, Houston kind of sucks. Houston, they kind of suck. So that was the first one. The second takeaway I have is I felt bad today at halftime. I felt bad for Brian Callahan. I felt bad for the man. It was, and I know, I'm already seeing, in the chat, is that fire Callahan. I said last week I'd fire Callahan. Again, if I owned the team, nothing would change. Nothing would change. I'd still fire the coach, but I would have fired the coach last week. What's Amy going to do? I don't know. But I felt bad for Callahan this week watching the game because it should have been 6-6 at halftime. And Joey Sly, who, again, for the most part, had been pretty good at making kicks when you weren't asking him to try to kick it from 70 yards. Joey Sly went out there and he missed two easy kicks. It could have been 6-6 at halftime. So I felt bad for Callahan from that standpoint. Now, he's a shitty coach, and he holds nobody accountable, and they're reaping what they sow. Because that Pee Wee program was what Brian Callahan was holding on to, and I told you people all off season long how stupid that whole thing was going to be, and it has been. But as far as this game, it's not Callahan's fault the kicker missed the kicks. It should have been 6-6 at halftime. By the way, isn't this just the traditional Callahan thing? They play close for a half and then get blown out. Number three, I felt bad for Simmons. I felt bad for Jeffrey Simmons because he played his ass off today. And as much as I bitch about Jeffrey Simmons, the more I'm going to tell you, hey, this season he is doing all he can do. Be nice if he donated a little bit more money than the $980 for a sack, but that's neither here nor there. But I felt bad for Simmons. He played great today. He's given it everything he's got. And I appreciate that out of Simmons. And I do think if you were to go to trade him, I think the way he's playing right now, he is worth a first-round pick. Like if I owned the Titans or if I was the general manager or whatever position it is, I'd be telling people, if you want Simmons, it's a first. And if not, I'm keeping him. Number 4, I would bench L'Jarius Sneed. And I tweeted this out during the game. I said, if Brian Callahan has any balls, now we know Brian Callahan doesn't have any balls, and today this proved it. But I said during the game, if Brian Callahan had any balls, he would have yanked Sneed off the field after Sneed gave up a 2nd and 33 to Nico Collins after all the shit that L'Jarius Sneed talked this week. I was disgusted when I saw that 2nd and 33. And my livelihood is not at stake because of that. Like, you're the head coach of an NFL team. You're going to be remembered for this horseshit season and a half that you had. You'll never get another job again as a head coach in the NFL. And you're just going to let L'Jarius Sneed act like that during the week, get just absolutely toasted in a meaningful part of the game and do nothing about it. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. They're going to let him do that. I would have benched L'Jarius Sneed after that, and the fact that they didn't tells me who the Titans are. Jarvis Brownlee, bad guy, but L'Jarius Sneed allegedly involved in a car dealership shooting and talking shit for no reason. There was no reason to take that shot during the week on Nico Collins, and then he gets embarrassed, and of course Callahan does nothing when that happens. Number 5, I was a little surprised. I thought the Titans' offensive line held up as well as they did, given the fact that they were playing Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and all those good defensive linemen for the Texans. I actually thought the offensive line gave Cam a little bit of a chance. Just a little bit of a chance. By the way, some of you, this one guy in the YouTube chat just put up there, Jackson Dart has a way better team. Jackson Dart's team sucks. Don't be making those bullshit excuses now. But I'm surprised Titans offensive line held up the way they did. That's number 5. Number 6, I thought Cam was pretty bad today. And I thought Cam's interception on the throw to Io Manor, that is what drives me nuts about Cam. So Cam had that one play on the first drive where Cam rolled out and he avoids the sack, and I think it was Will Anderson, and he avoids the sack, and he fires the ball 30 yards down the field, opposite hash, and it hits Io Manor, and boom. And that's the play that everybody watches, and they say, wow, look at that, Jared. Look at that play. And that was the play that Cam could make in college that, I'll be honest, I did not know if Cam would be able to make that play in the NFL. Like, I didn't know, like, is that play going to work? Is that kosher in the NFL, that kind of play? And I didn't know. And so now we know Cam can make that play in the NFL, which is great. But then he follows up the next play with a Will Levis special. And it felt like the day only got worse from there for Cam. He was off target consistently throughout the game. His footwork is not good. There's something James Foster brought up on the film breakdowns he does here for 440 Sports, which I think are excellent, by the way. But he brought this up after the Rams game when Byron Young was pressuring from the interior. And James Foster said, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to, that Cam is going to be able to see over bigger defensive linemen because he's only 6'2". And one thing Cam does is at 6'2" and not 6'5" like a Justin Herbert, but at 6'2", he'll try to throw sidearm and those balls get tipped. And that was a big problem today. His accuracy was off because he's got bad footwork. And then the throw to Io Manor. We talk about the backyard football, and we see the big play to Io Manor early in the game, but then we see the backyard football, and Cam scrambles away, and he fires a BB, again, bad accuracy, behind Io Manor. He's trying to adjust to the ball. I think it would have been an incredible catch for Io Manor to bring that in. Io Manor adjusts, ball hits off his hands, pops into the air, and it's intercepted, and that essentially was the ball game. So I thought Cam was awful. I thought the interception today was Cam's fault. I appreciate Cam's toughness and the fact that he doesn't give up. I mean, I was very impressed by the scramble where Aziz tripped him up a yard or two short, but the interception was his fault. The accuracy, the sidearm stuff, I mean, that's just not going to work. And they're going to have to figure out how to coach better mechanics into Cam Ward. And unfortunately, I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, this guy coaching him. So that's the sixth thing. The seventh thing, there were plays that led to points that absolutely drove me insane today. And it shouldn't be this way, but apparently it is, where I can look at the list and I can basically point to three guys and say, congratulations, you cost your team the game. Football is a team sport, but on three separate occasions, there were guys that cost this team the game. And I use the Cam interception as one of them. That's a play where a bad throw results in an interception, which resulted in a Houston touchdown. There was the L'Jarius Sneed 2nd and 33 that led to a Houston touchdown. There was the L'Jarius Sneed illegal contact after a sack on the first drive of the game as the Houston Texans went down the field and kicked a field goal. That's 3 points. So I've just counted 2 touchdowns and a field goal, which is 16 points because the Texans went for 2 after one of the touchdowns and didn't get it. So that's 16 points. Add in the 6 missed by Joey Sly. That's 22 points. Like, that's going to lose you games even if you're good. The Titans played the Colts one time when they had a good team, and A.J. Brown dropped a touchdown, and they got a couple of punts blocked. You cannot beat teams with that shit that they do out there. And so, again, I mean, I feel bad for Simmons. I feel bad for some of these guys busting their ass every week. And I tweeted this out, and I stand by it. This team has not quit on Brian Callahan, which is the one positive here. But, I mean, give me a break. You cannot put L'Jarius Sneed back out there after his week. So that was number 7. Number 8, I did listen to the TV broadcast. I didn't think Beth Mowins was that bad. You know, it's a real status symbol. When you have Beth Mowins calling your game, it means that your game is absolute dog shit that week. And I mean that with all due respect to Beth Mowins. I haven't talked to Beth Mowins in 10 years. And I liked Beth Mowins when I did know her. But let's not kid ourselves. When you've got Beth Mowins calling the game, she doesn't even call a game every week. When you've got Beth Mowins calling the game, that is a status symbol that your game doesn't really even belong on TV. That the only reason that they're broadcasting this game is not because it's because CBS says you have to. And Ross Tucker, he never shuts up, but he's whatever. I actually looked back at it today. You've had more Beth Mowins games over the last 2 years, 2, than you have had Jim Nantz, Tony Romo games. 0. You have to go all the way back to 2021 for your last Jim Nantz, Tony Romo game. That was the Pittsburgh game where NWI was short of the sticks on 4th down. That's the last time you had Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. That was 4 years ago. So I was expecting very, very bad from Beth Mowins. You know, the kind of, oh, God, get this off. It wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. And then finally, my last takeaway today, I don't know what Amy's going to do. Here's what I said on Friday's program. When it came to Amy, this was my prediction as to what was going to happen. It's 2 minutes and 47 seconds long. In fact, we don't need to play it. I said on Friday's program, fuck it, let's play it. This was Friday's program. This is what I said was going to happen this week. Here's what I think happens. I think the Titans play competitive football for one half. Then by the end of the first half, the Texans will take the lead. Then they'll pin their ears back, and they're coming after Cam Ward, and they're going to light his ass up. Then the game becomes a blowout. Then it becomes one of those second halves with like 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, where even as a fan who's not at the game, who's watching it on TV, you're starting to think to yourself, Oh, shit. Will this game ever end? Oh, my God. Will this game ever end? And then the fourth quarter will just be painful. And then on Tuesday morning, not Monday morning, not Sunday night, on Tuesday morning, because the Titans do these things on Tuesday, not on Monday, for whatever reason. I guess Amy goes over with all of her lieutenants that got you into this mess. She goes over with her lieutenants on Monday what they're going to do, and then they do it on Tuesday. Because Mike Mularkey got the boot on a Monday after a Saturday game. John Robinson got the boot on a Tuesday. Rand Carthon got the boot on a Tuesday. Ken Wisenhunt got the boot on a Tuesday. I mean, the only guy who got the boot, Mike Vrabel got the boot on a Tuesday. The only guy who got the boot, right, hey, show's over, folks, was Rustin Webster, and he knew he was getting the boot for weeks, maybe even months. So on Tuesday, for whatever reason, they don't do this on Monday. On Tuesday, the Titans will announce a Brian Callahan firing. I think they'll fire Brian Callahan. I think they'll fire Bill Callahan, but I think that'll be Bill's choice, which is, hey, Bill, we're not going to just fire. Bill, if you want to coach this team with Mike McCoy as the interim head coach and you want to be the line coach, you can. But if you don't want to coach the team, we get it. And I think Bill will choose, hey, you're firing my son, I'm out of here too. So they'll fire Bill, they'll fire Brian, and I think they'll fire Nick Holtz. They'll keep the defensive coaching staff the same. They'll make the assistant offensive line coach, whoever the hell that is, and okay, that's good enough there. So I think Brian Callahan is at the podium now. So let's just, as we like to do here on the program, let's hit that.
To be able to get off the field.
Yeah, you can't give up those plays in those spots. You're playing way behind the sticks. That should be advantage defense. And you got to make those plays, and you can't give those up. You can't give up a 2nd and 23 for a first down because you got them backed up, and you got them where you want them. You earned that spot, and then to give that up was disappointing. So you get them in spots like that and give up big plays. That's not going to win many football games for you.
You said this team showed you a lot of fight.
Yeah.
Did this team show you fight today?
Oh yeah, they fought. I mean, I don't know what. Not playing well and not fighting are two different things. We didn't play well enough, but I don't think I'd question the way those guys went and played the game. I mean, they fought their tails off for the entirety of the game. So you guys can make whatever conjecture you want, but I don't see any effort issues in terms of how they're playing the game. We're not playing it well enough. That's certainly part of it. But they went out and played hard today. I don't have any qualms about how they came out and played.
Coming into this game, Jeffrey Simmons, he said the best players have to play better. You got a guy like Snead who calls out, he gets himself going with the who and asks about Nico Collins when you have that. What can you do to get that back on track?
Yeah, I mean, those are when you talk, you got to back it up. Didn't do that today. That's decision a guy makes, and then he's got to live with that too. You know, that's on them. If they want to talk, then you got to back it up, and didn't do a good enough job of that today. That happens, but I don't know that's a personal thing for some guys. So
What's a frustration level like, Brian, and with 14 games left or 13 games left, how do you keep that from overwhelming you at the top?
I mean, like I've said before, there's nobody that puts more pressure and eats more frustration than I do on where we're at. I don't need any help with that usually. I put enough of it on myself. So we just got to turn around and keep fighting. There's no nobody comes in to save you. All we got is the guys that are in there, and we got to keep trying to find a way to get better and play better football.
You didn't get the results you wanted, but from an operations standpoint, how did it go with Bo calling?
Yeah, operationally was solid. I think those, we didn't have any real issues, calls getting in or issues on the play clock or anything like that. So, but ultimately still wasn't, when you score 0 points, it's not good enough.
Are you concerned at all about just the whole situation of the coaching staff and maybe their status after something like this?
No. I like I said before, I show up and do my job, and we do it as hard as we can. It's everybody on our staff. We work our tails off, and we try to do everything we can to put ourselves in position to win, and we haven't. And that's just that's the reality of our jobs in the league. So, no, we don't think about it.
What's keeping you from changing that attitude, or what is grounding you as the results continue to mount the way they are?
I'm not sure I understand.
You said you haven't changed the way you're thinking about job status and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What is keeping you there despite the losses?
What keeps me there is the guys in the locker room and the coaches and the coaching staff. My job is to try to lead, and leading is hard it's hard right now. But that's my job, and my job is to try to continue to fight and continue to help wherever I can help, and to continue to keep pushing our guys to keep getting better. And that's the only thing you can do when you're in a spot like this is just keep coming out, keep swinging. And none of it's been good enough, and we all know that. And that's something that you just got to keep fighting through, and you got to find a way to break through at some point.
Do you think this is a resilient and relentless football team?
I know what you're doing there, Paul. I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to answer that shit right now.
Well, I mean, those are the things that you've tried to
Yeah,
this football team. You're 20-some games in.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Let me just compose myself here before I say something I regret. But yes, I think this team is resilient. I think it is relentless. We haven't played good enough football, and I think those are two very distinct, different things. We have to execute at a better level. We have to coach better. That's really all I can say.
Last one. What is it that makes you believe the team is resilient and will continue to fight?
I mean, all I know is what I see every day, and they show up. They work. We work in practice. I did not anticipate a result like that coming up in a game. The attitude, the energy, the things they do during the week, like there's nothing that would point to that there's any kind of lack of those things, and we fought our tails off in the game. And again, we're not playing well enough. We're not executing things at a high enough level to win. And it's certainly not for lack of an intent and lack of effort and lack of focus. I mean, we're trying to do all the things that we need to do to win a football game, and everything during the week, the guys work. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, we had one of our best Thursday practices of the week, so it's hard to stomach that when you practice the way we practice, and you show up in a game that looks like that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Best Thursday practice of the week. First of all, let me apologize to everybody out there about screwing up the audio at the beginning. I've got to mute it in two separate places at one time, so I that's my fault. So I just want everybody out there to just, hey, if you want to say Stillman doesn't know what he's doing, you may do that, and that's fine too, as I sit up here and criticize all of them. Okay. I was writing down notes, which is why it took me a second, to realize that the audio wasn't coming through for you guys on the press conference. But him versus Paul, I got to give Callahan some credit there. I'm on Callahan's side with that. And I know you guys won't be. I know you guys will sit there and say, you get him, Paul. You get him. So if you couldn't hear the question and you want to know what just transpired between Callahan and Paul asked a question, and I don't exactly remember what it was, but earlier in the press conference, Paul asked a question about, the team and are they still fighting? And Callahan said yes. And Callahan talked about the difference between playing bad football, which is one thing, and not fighting, which is another thing, not playing hard. And I agree. I think there are two totally different things. I think there is playing hard and playing well. I do not think that the Tennessee Titans played well. Personally, I think the Tennessee Titans played hard. I do. I think the Titans are still playing hard. I think that they still are giving it their all. They're just not very well coached. They're not very disciplined, and they have serious talent deficiencies. I mean, they went into the season thinking Chigakonkwo was a starting tight end in the NFL for the third consecutive year. And for the third consecutive year, Chigakonkwo has gone out there and not done shit. That's not about playing hard. That's about playing well. So I actually agree with Callahan that I think that they're playing well. So Paul circles back and says, do you think this team is resilient and relentless? And Callahan goes, Paul, I know what you're trying to do with that shit. In which Paul followed up and saying, but you said those were the themes of the season, and here you are, your team sucks, and what are you doing? And I think Paul was right to ask the question. And I understand why Callahan got upset. And Callahan goes, give me a second to compose myself before I say something I'll regret, which might as well be whatever it is he wanted to say. If he just wanted to say, fuck you, Paul, that's what that really was. I mean, other than him saying, fuck you, and then Pat McAfee and them laughing about it. Like, that's kind of what that was. That was his way. I think he's right. I think Callahan's right. I think they're playing hard. The problem is that as a football coach in the NFL, playing hard is only a part of the equation. Like, the fans, we want to see the team play hard every week. And then we want to see the team win. And the team is playing hard, but they're not winning. And they're not close to winning. And so that's why people are mad. But I absolutely think this team is playing hard. Now, Scott says Callahan has no balls. I don't disagree with that. I think that has been part of the issue that I have had with Callahan for a while. And it really goes back to the coaching staff. When Brian Callahan did not make massive changes to the coaching staff, that for me was the moment where I said, okay, this guy thinks that, I can figure it out and I've got all the answers. And I'm like, oh shit. That never ends well for a coach. So when he barely changed the coaching staff, just guys that were here when he got here, like Chris Harris and Justin Outen weren't retained, or Anthony Levine, and then they changed the special teams coach, but they didn't change the coordinators, and his high school buddy is still the OC, and Denard Wilson, who was in over his head as a DC last year, he's still the DC. When that was going on, I said, okay, I've got my answer here on Callahan. Like, I've understood. And so for me, I just, again, there's a difference between playing hard and playing well. And this team is not playing well. So the big drama is going to be about Paul versus Callahan. Yeah. And that's what happens when everybody is terrible. But the issue is that the team sucks. That's the issue. And that Callahan has no answers to get them out of it. That's the issue. The issue is not, these boys aren't showing up to play. They showed up to play. It was 6-0 at halftime. And I'm not one of these guys that does, it should have been, and it could have been this, or it could have been that, or it should have been this, or it should have been that, because that's what losers say. It's, if this guy hadn't have missed that kick, then we would have been, and I hate that. But if Joey Slye just makes 2 kicks at 6-6 at halftime, Jeffrey Simmons is playing his ass off. You mean to tell me Tony Pollard's not playing hard? Calvin Ridley's not catching the ball, but he's playing hard. Io Manor's playing hard. They're just not very good. That's the problem. Rusty says, when's the last time we tried to run a trick play? You tried to run 2 today, and they both got blown up. A flea flicker got blown up, and then they had, I think, a play set up for DK to throw the ball, and that got blown up. So you do run those. Those do exist. that are out there. By the way, the Giants just won a game with Jackson Dart as quarterback. They beat the Chargers. And after the game was over, it looked like Brian Dable, who probably saved his job for a week by winning that game, went and basically tried to kiss Jackson Dart. It was kind of weird. But hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess. This is Pro Sports. That's how it's going to be. Okay. We await Cam Ward. Some of the nuggets from Callahan's press conference, and I apologize again for the audio at the beginning of that. That's totally my fault. Number one, Callahan said that what's going on right now is a reflection of all of us, as he said. Said it was hard for them to get in a rhythm offensively, and he said that Cam had a tough day. Yeah, I'll say Cam had a tough day. Said they fought their tails off. Was asked about how he doesn't focus on his job status, given the shittiness of the team, the terribleness of the record, and everything else. He said guys in the locker room are what's keeping him from worrying about his job status. I mean, the truth is, when it comes to, are you worried about your job status? Of course he's worried about his job status. He's 3-18 as a head coach in the NFL. Of course he's worried about his job status. What's he supposed to get up there and say? That he's worried about his job status. That said, there's really nothing a coach can do about their job status other than get back to work and win some games. The problem is that they can't get to work and win any games. He said his job is to lead, which is true. And then he got into it with Paul over the resilient and relentless. Let me say this again. I don't know what Amy's going to do. As I said on Friday's show, and I think I called the game pretty well as we ran that cut, but I think I called the game pretty well when I said it's going to be competitive and close for a half. Then it'll be a blowout in the second half to where you're sitting there looking at the clock saying, how much longer is this shit going to go on? And then it finally ends. And I said that if they got embarrassed in Houston, which I expected this to be the case, I said I think Amy fires everybody on Tuesday. And by everybody, I mean Callahan. I mean Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator, because there's no point in him sticking around if Mike McCoy is going to run the team as the interim head coach and Bo Hardigree is going to call the plays. So Bo gets bumped up to interim OC, and then whoever's the assistant quarterbacks coach, he becomes the quarterbacks coach, which is actually how Arthur Smith got his first full-time coaching position in the NFL. He was the assistant tight ends coach to Mike Mularkey when Ken Wisenhunt got fired, and so Arthur Smith became the tight ends coach, but I digress. So I think what's going to happen is this week, again, that's what I thought on Friday. I have no idea what Amy is going to do. I was at the Vanderbilt game yesterday, and somebody asked me on the elevator up to the press box, they said, so are they going to fire Callahan? And I looked at him and I was like, I mean, I think, but I don't know. Callahan knows he's toast. As many of you have put into the YouTube chat, I don't disagree with that. I think Callahan probably knows, like, hey, man, every day I get after today is an extra day. I think he's kind of on borrowed time. One person says the Mike Keith curse continues. What is the Mike Keith curse? Somebody enlighten me on that. So, again, and we'll figure out what the Mike Keith curse is here at some point. I'm guessing that means that since Mike Keith left, they're going to lose every game. They lost every game when Mike Keith was calling the games. So that's at least something to keep an eye on. Again, I don't know what she's going to do. I really thought that she was going to fire him on Monday, last week. Like, I thought that after that Colts game and nobody in the stands, I thought she was going to fire him. This is Houston. They take Houston very personally as ownership. They live in Houston. They're from Houston. Their dad got the middle finger from Houston. So they take Houston very, very personally. So I don't know. But again, with Amy, she's so unpredictable. There's no way to know. What I am going to do, I'm just going to tell you this ahead of time, like, just so that there's no confusion. And I know that they'll say, oh, Jared, he's just, he's going after us. He's Chad Brinker at the beginning of camp fully endorsed Brian Callahan. Now, I reported at the end of last season when Chad Brinker got put in charge as the head man in charge, I said, hey, what I'm hearing is that Brinker wants a new coach and that Amy wants to keep Callahan in as the coach. And of course, they didn't publicly deny it, but Paul said, I didn't hear any of that. And so I go, when it comes to Brinker, I believe Brinker didn't want to keep him, but the owner makes the big decisions for a football team. At the beginning of training camp, Brinker and Borgonzi fully endorsed Brian Callahan as the coach. And for me, the only reason I bring this up, the only reason that I will play those cuts over and over and over again, if they do in fact fire Callahan, and if Chad Brinker is trying to tell you people, be patient and let me run this team, let me pick this team, is I'm going to say, look, you don't get, even if you're just saying it to say it, you don't get the benefit of the doubt after what you tell us to believe doesn't end up coming to fruition every single time. And that's the problem with the Chad Brinker shit. Is last year, we've played the cuts 1,000 times of him pumping Rand's tires in that podcast about, we got a great GM, let me tell you. I mean, he's awesome. He's Rand Carthon. He's going to do great things in this league. He's like a long-lost brother. And then they fire Rand, and it's like, hey, everything we told you about Rand before today, yeah, forget about it. None of it's true. We lied. And that'll be what happens when they fire Callahan, is they will say, well, we wanted to say good things. We wanted the players to believe in him. But yeah, no, he's a terrible coach. I was telling you that then. I told you the Pee Wee program wasn't going to work. So no, Brinker, you don't get off on that you didn't technically hire him. Plus, Brinker was part of the committee that hired him. So that for me is going to be very, very exciting. PA is just lighting up the text or the YouTube chat talking about the great Mike Vrabel. The great Mike Vrabel is 2-2 after they hung 40 on Carolina. Let me say this, PA. Your team sucked when Vrabel was the coach. Would they suck this bad with Vrabel as the coach? Of course not. And they wouldn't have sucked as bad as they sucked last year if Vrabel was the coach. But it's not as if Mike Vrabel, the great Mike Vrabel, would be leading this team to much greener pastures. They'd be greener because Vrabel is a good coach. And I don't think anybody, including the Titans, I don't think anybody thought when they fired Vrabel that Vrabel was a bad coach. They just felt like, okay, he's got deficiencies and it ain't working out here anymore. But Callahan is a bad coach. So, of course, Vrabel's better. But if you think all of a sudden I'm going to sit here and think that because Mike Vrabel beat the fucking Panthers, that it's going to move the needle one way or another for me, give me a break. By the way, I do want to say this. I meant to say this on Friday's show, and I guess I forgot, which I shouldn't have. I did see the news out of New England with Vrabel about Terrell Williams, and that is, with prostate cancer, it's very treatable if it is caught early. Obviously, Vrabel did not say when they caught Terrell Williams' prostate cancer or what stage it's in, or because it can be deadly if you don't catch it soon enough, and it can be very treatable if you do. So I'm hopeful that they caught it early with Terrell Williams, and I hope for the best because Terrell Williams is a very good man. And so I hope for the best there. That was terrible news to hear, and thinking about him as well. We are awaiting Cameron Ward at the press conference. He is stepping up and will go out to Houston.
Just trying to get a football win, honestly. That's it.
Do you think you played personally?
Ass.
Anything in particular that went wrong for you?
Getting stuck past the 50. Interception. Incompletion. Penalties. Not helping the defense out. Just not good enough to win.
Obviously, you have a lot of family here. When things don't go well like this, does that kind of ruin the whole homecoming aspect?
No, it don't ruin nothing for me. They see me a lot in the offseason, so they're just trying to come show their support, and really just trying to be there for me. But just trying to get the ball rolling.
Anything the Texans were doing in particular? The defense?
Not really. They did everything they showed on film. I said the only biggest switch that they had is they went more cover 2 on third down, third and long than we expected. But they showed everything they did on film. It's a good defensive line, good back end. We just didn't play good enough.
On the pick, I think you left your feet and you went super sidearm. Did you feel in the moment that you both were necessary, and is it part of maybe what threw you off?
No matter if I throw off platform or sidearm, I just got to be more accurate with the football. I wasn't accurate enough. He was coming in. I threw it on his backside shoulder. I can't do that. So I know he'll make that play for me next time, but I shouldn't have to put him in that situation.
It seemed like you had some accuracy problems. I know you were under pressure a lot today, but did you feel like you were off target more than usual today?
Not really. Some of them got to be throwaways in some situations. And then some of them was just me not putting the ball where it needed to go.
Sorry, Miss First Wave, but what's not going right for this offense where you guys just can't get on track?
Everything from interception to a penalty to an incompletion by me, a bad ball. And then once we pass the 50, we just not continuing the drive. So, if we keeping the buck right now, we ass. So we 0-4. We have – this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our fucking games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all three faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet. And that's just something that, we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that, but it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
It sounds like you beat yourself up some there, too. Do you challenge guys in the locker room, challenge them during the week to kind of get better?
Yeah. And we all challenge each other. I challenge those guys. They challenge me every day, especially in practice. But it look good in practice. It's not looking good right now on Sundays. We got to make it look good in practice and on Sundays. So no matter how many good weeks of practice we have to have a good game on Sunday. And it's 4 weeks straight. We ain't did it offensively. At some point, we have to help the defense out. We're down 6-0 halftime. End up getting the ball back. We're down 19-0. They give up a touchdown. So what? We're still in the ball game, and we're not helping the defense out. So we're not doing enough offense.
Is this the most frustrating period you can recall going through football?
I would say no. I had a lot of frustrations in my past, whether it was high school to college. But I just want to win. When's the last time Tennessee won? I don't know. I'm trying to win. Everybody in this locker room, we want to win, and we have to win. That's really what it comes down to. No matter how we got to do it, at some point, we have to turn the tide and we have to start with the games.
Is there something you could bring from whatever those more frustrating moments were to this and apply it to move forward for yourself personally?
Really, just continue to have urgency, and that's everybody, especially myself, and as a whole, the offense. That's the biggest problem right now in my head. We're not helping the defense out, and whether the defense gives up a touchdown here or there, we're still not doing enough to help those guys out. They playing their ass off for us every Sunday, and we not doing our part. So, it all comes down to us locking in. From myself having bad incompletions to not taking completions to not getting the ball out, from us having a penalty or if it's a drop on the receiver. Everybody got their one job. Everybody got to do their 111. We just got to go get it.
And when you go back and look at film of these losses so far through these first 3 games and then today, and look at it, what are you seeing that is not being done from an execution standpoint?
I would say, honestly, just not being consistent. And that falls into the execution standpoint, and whether I have a bad ball, whether I need to throw it away. But also the biggest thing is every time we get in a long situation or get back on track situation, the drive always ends. In NFL, it's hard to play on second and long. It's hard to play on third and long. So that's the biggest thing. We have to execute plays every play. It can't just be whether we get a big run or a big package or a spurt. We got to just be consistent.
What is it about the coaching staff that's maintaining your faith right now?
It's nothing about the coaching staff. At the end of the day, they put together a good plan for us. We're not executed as players. Offensively, like, we just have to make the plays. Like, at the end of the day, every pass concept is winnable versus man or zone, no matter what they got to. I got to get through the progression. I got to put the ball in my receiver plan in the receiver hands. At the end of the day, they got to make plays too.
What gives you the confidence that the plan is good or that it will work when you haven't seen those results yet?
Say that again?
What gives you the confidence that the plan is good or that the plan will work when you haven't felt or seen the results yet?
Because it's there. Like, I'm watching the film on the sideline. It's there. It's just, whether it's a bad play by me or bad play by one of the 11, like, it's just not clicking when it needs to click. It has to click every drive, and it's not doing that yet. And so, I mean, the biggest thing is the urgency. I think up front, those guys, they were gritty today. In the run game and the pass game, they went against a good defensive line up there. And, I mean, from an offense standpoint, we just have to be consistent. It's 4 games, and we own 4. Why? Because we're inconsistent.
Do you feel you need to kind of assert your leadership even more on this team, given the circumstances and where you all are?
I don't think that. I always assert it when I think the time is necessary, but we're not doing our job as a unit. We're not doing our job, and at some point it's got to change. I hope it changes next week. We're gonna try to change it next week, but that needs to be the message. We have to change it one play at a time. And if it doesn't change, we're just gonna keep on getting these same results. We have to win games.
Last one. Is it good? Thanks, Cam.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Cam Ward at the podium here on Postgame Live. And so Cam Ward, man, he was asked straight up. He said, how did he play? Answer, quote, ass. Just saying, ass. That's how he played. Let me say this, and I know what Cam was getting at, and I was seeing your reaction on the YouTube chat as Cam was talking, and a lot of you guys were like, yeah, Cam, you get it. Yeah, I like your passion, Cam. I think it's the one problem I have with this is that Cam sucked today. Now, Cam knows Cam sucked. And in Cam's frustrations, you could hear Cam talk about, like, I'm looking at the tablet. It's there. You know, or when he was asked about the interception and he said, I can't throw that ball behind the receiver the way I threw the ball. He knows he did not play well today. He knows he let his teammates down today with his performance. But what I worry about, because Cam is not the target as far as the fan base is concerned, and ownership listens to the fans because they're just as clueless as the fans are, I think, to a certain extent. But what bothers me is I think that press conference and the anger that we saw from Cam, that may lead to Callahan getting fired, which I know you people would say, good. And I don't have a problem with it if Callahan gets fired. Callahan has done everything that a coach could do to deserve to be fired. But Cam was bad today, and Cam knows Cam was bad today. And I don't know how you can make excuses for Cam's performance today when Cam Ward is not interested in making excuses for Cam Ward. Cam Ward, 10 of 26, 108. That's 4.2 yards per attempt. That is fucking heinous. No touchdowns, 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 35.4. Unless you've got the 85 Bears defense, you're not going to win games with a quarterback rating of 35.4. And this wasn't like Calvin Ridley a couple weeks ago dropping every single pass. This was different. And Cam was awful today. And if you cannot admit that Cam was part of the problem today, then your head is up your ass and you are not really trying to find the solutions of how to fix this. And here's what I hate. What I hate is I hate that if I start talking about Sam Darnold or whatever, people are going to say, you know, oh, there goes Jared, then I told you so, but Sam Darnold wouldn't be on this team, and so whatever. What I hate is thinking about the last 9 months before this month. Once Rand Carthon got fired and the dust settled that Chad Brinker was going to run the operation, which made no sense to anybody, and still, I think, to this point in time, really doesn't make any sense to anybody. And I said, like, man, this organization is in a tough spot. But if they're going to get this right, they need to go get Sam Darnold. And everybody said, when I said that, they go, Sam Darnold sucks. He sucks, Jared. He's a bum. Well, I watched Thursday Night Football. And I think a lot of you watched Thursday Night Football. And Sam Darnold may not be Patrick Mahomes. And he may not be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But he's not a bum. He's not. And the way I viewed it at that time, and people didn't want to hear this because the unknown is undefeated. The mystery box, he could one day be the franchise quarterback that leads us to greatness when his draft status did not indicate, hey, he's going to lead you to greatness. His size, as far as the measurables concerned, did not say this guy's going to lead you to greatness. His mechanics were an issue coming out of college that would hold him back from leading you to greatness. So as all those things were happening, we just ignored it because, again, the unknown is undefeated. The idea that he's Mahomes, that's what everybody just wanted to believe. And I said, okay, but Mahomes, when he got started, sat the bench for a year behind Alex Smith. He had Tyreek Hill. He had Travis Kelce. He had all these guys. I mean, it's a totally different situation, and you know that. And they built in that situation so that they could then go get their quarterback and develop him. And when Mike Borgonzi got the job as general manager, again, I don't know what the fuck he does or how much authority he has, but when he got the job as general manager, he talked about having a plan for the young quarterback. And I said, okay, well, let's see what the plan is. Because what a lot of these bad organizations do is they take the young quarterback, they tell themselves that he's going to be the next Joe Namath, and then they stick him out there, and he struggles early on because he's a rookie, because it's one of the hardest jobs in sports to be a starting quarterback, and there's so much on your plate and everything else. And the guy's not Jaden Daniels as a rookie, and he's not CJ Stroud as a rookie. And it's like, he sucks. And the guy doesn't actually suck, but it's just he's not in a good spot. He's learning and he's got to develop, but nobody wants to hear that. We just think that Mahomes was just born great, or Allen was born great, or Lamar was born great, or Steve McNair was born great. And that's not what happened. And so I knew if they didn't sign a veteran quarterback and trade the picks to build up this terrible roster, what they were going to do is what all these bad teams, for the most part, do. Draft a guy with the number one pick when he's not the best player in the draft, but draft him number one because you need a quarterback, stick him out there with a bad coach and a bad crew, let the guy fail, turn his confidence down to zero while he needs to be fine-tuning his game, change the coaching staff on him, and then in a year and a half think he sucks too. And I knew, I'm like, if they go that route, that's what's going to happen. And that's what's happening. And that's why I bring up the bad game that Cam had today. Because, again, people are going to say, yeah, he had a bad game, but he's a rookie, Jared. What do you expect? I agree. But at the same time, he is why you lost today. He contributed significantly to why you lost. And veteran quarterbacks don't make those mistakes. They make mistakes because they're not good enough. But they don't make the mistakes Cam made today, which keeps your team from having a chance to win, which then keeps everybody from being thrown overboard. And again, the other thing for me was the picks. That if you were to sign Sam Darnold, you would then be able to trade that pick and get a bunch of picks in return and then really build out this terrible roster so you're not relying on fourth-round rookies at wide receiver, so that you're not relying for the third year in a row on Chigakonkwo. And I hope I've gotten the message through. And again, this is where I go to Sam Darnold on. If they were coming out for the draft today where they were as draft prospects, Sam Darnold would go ahead of Cam Ward. More people looked at Sam Darnold as a potential superstar talent than saw that from Cam Ward, as far as the draft community and evaluators are concerned. Sam has bigger size. He is a more prototypical quarterback than Cam. That doesn't mean that Sam is for sure better than Cam or that Sam was for sure going to be better than Cam, because nobody really knows at the end of the day. But what we do learn throughout this, when it comes to young quarterbacks and the need to develop and the need to have patience, and I think that if you had signed Sam Darnold, you would have skipped that. It's 4 games in. We've got to learn, Jared. Like, you would have skipped that. The way Tampa Bay skipped that by going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. They didn't have to go through the growing pains for Baker Mayfield because Baker already went through them. And John says on the YouTube chat, Jared, this is tiresome. Move on. Well, here's what I'm trying to do. And maybe I'm not doing a good enough job of it. Maybe the Titans will always do the opposite of what I say, because all I ever get from them as an organization is about how wrong I am. Like, you don't understand. And it's been you don't understand from them to me for like the last 3 years, and they never win any football games. So maybe the next time somebody over there says to me, you don't understand, maybe I need to say on the other end, which I do, but I need to say, no, you don't understand, because they don't understand. The point I'm making is this. We all have to agree, or I think we all can agree, that with a young quarterback, especially a young quarterback who coming out was not Peyton Manning, was not Joe Burrow, was not Caleb Williams, was not Trevor Lawrence, with a young quarterback, there's always going to be growing pains, regardless of if you've got a good team or if you've got a good coach or whatever it may be. Steve Young was awful in Tampa. Hall of Famer in San Francisco. We can all agree on that, right? Aikman was awful in Dallas in the beginning. Bradshaw was on the bench. Staubach didn't start the first 2. We can all agree, right? So let's get that point down, that young quarterback's going to struggle. Everybody said during the offseason, like, that's okay, Jared. We know we're not going to be good. That's okay. And I said, you say that today in June, and you say that today in February, because it's easier to just say we're not going to be good than it is to live what we just lived through earlier this afternoon. That's why. And a lot of people can't admit that. I've been in this too long. I know that. When people say, like, no, we'll be patient, it'll take time. No, we're not going to, we shouldn't. I said this when people kept saying Callahan shouldn't be fired no matter what at the end of the year, because we don't want to have to teach Cam Ward a new offense and that'll set him back and that'll everything else. And I said, well, it doesn't matter, because the games are going to happen. And when the games happen, if the young quarterback doesn't do well, it turns into from, well, we don't want to hurt the young quarterback by changing up the play caller on him. It turns into, he's ruining the young quarterback every time. And I'm not saying Callahan's not ruining the young quarterback, because I think Callahan is certainly not doing anything to help. I just want to go back to this offseason when I keep telling you guys, this is why I would have signed the available veteran starting quarterback. This is why I would have signed the 28-year-old who has already taken his lumps, who was an MVP candidate a season ago, who was 14-2 last year as a starter, who is 3-1 as a starting quarterback this year, who, as of right now, and we'll see what Mahomes does today, has the most game-winning drives in the National Football League over the last 2 years. You bring that guy in, you trade the pick to get more picks, and you build your football team around that guy. And you won't be competing for the Super Bowl, but you won't be 0-4 and shut out on the road. And then after that happens, after a couple of seasons, when you've built up a new core for your football team, That's when you can go find that guy. The way Kansas City found their guy. The way Baltimore found their guy. That's what I was saying all offseason. And unfortunately, nobody wanted to listen to it. Everybody just wanted to hear Cam Ward, Jared, he's unstoppable. And I'm like, do you realize how this league works? And the answer is no. A lot of you people do not know how this works. That's why I'm taking right now to remind everybody of the things that they said. Because what happens is in June and July, you say things like, I know we'll be bad, Jared. It'll be okay. And here you are today. And let me ask you, are you okay with what happened today? Are you okay with the start of this season? You told me you were going to be okay with struggling. You told me that you were going to be okay with a rookie quarterback. You told me you believed in the Pee Wee program. You told me that I wasn't a real Titan fan. I was just pessimistic. I'm just a hater. But now that we're going through the games, now can you see? And I'm not doing this to say, hey, I was right and everybody who said I was wrong, the distinguished gentlemen, need to get down on their knees and say, you were right, Mr. Stillman. But I am hoping to enlighten some of you that, hey, if you want to get the team better, you have to do things that are somewhat controversial, but at the same time, somewhat safe. Taking the risk and hoping that you're going to develop the guy into the next Josh Allen with less picks, to me, is a very, very risky strategy. Again, if Sam Darnold was the quarterback of this team with this coaching and this roster, it's probably a 7 or 8 win ball club. This team with a rookie quarterback with bad mechanics might go 0-17. So that's the one thing I'll say. And the trade back would have been a hole, even though some people kind of deny that a little bit. Jack says, Sam Darnold is ass. Did you watch game Thursday night? Cam Ward had a quarterback rating of 35.4. Sam Darnold has had a quarterback rating over 100 in the last 3 games. They've won them all. You people. I mean, sometimes it's just, again, a lot of you were the same people that were like, L'Jarius Sneed, let Rand cook. And I guess I've been through all that. For whatever that is worth. All right, let's get to some reaction today. Again, just to catch everybody up, the game was horrendous. We all watched it. What's going to happen to Callahan? I don't think anybody knows. I don't think Callahan knows what's going to happen to Callahan. And again, I don't know. Maybe Amy's talking it over with her lieutenants, the same people that got you in this mess to begin with. I don't know. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway is I thought if this happened, I thought this was going to happen. And I thought if this did happen, if this game went the way that it went, I thought that by Tuesday, Callahan's gone, Nick Holtz is gone, and Bill Callahan would be gone. Mike McCoy becomes interim head coach. Bo Hardigree becomes interim offensive coordinator. And whoever the assistant quarterbacks coach and assistant offensive line coach is would get elevated for the rest of the season to full-time, leading the room positions. And then Brinker would probably have a press conference and talk about how, well, we had to make the move that was in the best interest of the Titans, and I'm just challenging the team to play the best football they can play the rest of the year, and then we'll go from there. So that's what I think is going to happen, but I really don't have a clue. Somebody texted me, and they said, what are the odds that Callahan's gone tomorrow? I couldn't tell you. If I owned the team, he would have been gone last week, so I can't do that. So here's kind of my thoughts from the game, and then we'll get to your reaction. Again, hit it up in the YouTube chat. Number one, my biggest take today, as far as the NFL was concerned, is that Houston sucks. I mean, that Texan team, and I know they won 26-0, but if I was a Texan fan, I'd be like, we suck. And I think they do feel that way. I don't think they look at a 26-point win over the Titans and think to themselves that, okay, everything's fixed. CJ's ready to go. Because, man, I felt like the Texans were just kind of punchless. Number 2, I felt bad for Callahan in the first half. Joey Sly missed those kicks. That's not his fault. It should have been 6-6 at the half, but Joey Sly, who had been very accurate the first couple of games until they started trying 70-yard field goals, Joey Sly misses 2 chip shots. I mean, he should be cut tomorrow in the NFL. You can't miss those kicks. I felt bad for Callahan for that. I felt bad for Simmons. And you all know, I have been on Jeffrey Simmons' tailpipe, and I think that Jeffrey Simmons is phony. I think he's a fake leader. I think he's a fake tough guy. I think he's a fake philanthropist. I think he's kind of a fake shit talker. But he's playing his ass off. And I think he's playing at a first-round pick level. So when this inevitable fire sale comes and Simmons is the top asset on the team, everybody's going to call. They're all going to call. They're going to call for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're just going to want to see what the price would be, because these teams that think they're on the cusp of a Super Bowl would say, boy, what if we could add Jeffrey Simmons? And 2, they don't want Jeffrey Simmons going somewhere else. Oh, we're Baltimore. We don't want Jeffrey Simmons going to Buffalo. And I would set the price at a first-round pick. And if nobody's willing to meet the price of a first-round pick the way Simmons is playing, then I'm not trading him. But that would be the price. And I feel bad for Simmons because he's doing all he can do. I think Brian Callahan should bench L'Jarius Sneed. He talked about the shit talking during the week. And he said, some guys like to talk shit and you got to be able to back it up. Well, Sneed couldn't back it up. And if I coached this team, Sneed would be on the bench. Because what he did, that bulletin board material thing, that hurts the team. And I don't want everybody else thinking they can do that either. And I want to make a statement. If I'm the coach, I want to make a statement that says, hey, if you put your own interest in front of the team because you want to be the man, then you better go out there and be the man. And if you're not, you're out. Callahan, though, doesn't have balls, so he didn't do it. And he was like, yeah, well, you just got to back it up, but that's personal decision, blah, blah, blah. I didn't like that. I would bench L'Jarius Sneed after that second and 23, 33, whatever the fuck it was. Bench him. Number 5, a lot of people in the YouTube chat have talked about how bad the Titans offensive line is. I'm not there. I thought the Titans offensive line was fine. I thought the line was fine. I mean, yeah, was there pressure? Yeah, they have the 3rd pick in the draft and a $19 million edge rusher. That's going to happen. I thought Oli Udoa held up well. And again, when talking about reasons to fire the Callahans, I think the fact that they went to Ojokwu in week 2, because Udoa is way better than Ojokwu. I thought the fact that they went to Ojokwu over Udoa was freaking criminal. Number 6, I thought Cam's interception was Cam's fault. By the way, in his press conference, Cam said that Cam's interception was his fault. I thought Cam was bad today. I think his footwork's off. I think his mechanics are bad. And the one thing is, yes, he can do some spectacular stuff with the sidearm throws. But what he can't do is he can't stand flat-footed in the pocket and think he's going to be able to, at 6'2", go sidearm and get it over these 6'5" defensive linemen who are going to put their hands up. And I think that's what Cam's doing, and that's going to be a problem. So I thought his mechanics were off. I think his footwork is terrible. I thought his ball placement was horrendous. Those all go hand in hand. I did not think Cam was very good. And then I really look at, again, football's a team sport. This is a bad team. It's not just one guy, but Cam's interception led to 7 points. Can't have that. Sneed's 2nd and 23 led to a Houston touchdown. That's 6 points. Joey Sly's 2 missed field goals. That's 6 points. Sneed, the illegal contact early in the game that negated a big sack, that led to a field goal. That's 3 points. You can't just give the team 22 points and expect to win games. And that's the stuff where, again, you either got to bench those guys, or you got to coach them up to play better, or you got to cut the kicker, whatever. And I don't think Callahan does any of that, which is, again, another indictment of his coaching. And then finally, what's Amy going to do tomorrow? I don't know. And anybody who tells you that they know what Amy's going to do, if they are not Burke Nihill or Jim Wyatt, I'm telling you, they don't know. Couple of stats that stood out, and then we'll get right to your reaction, I promise. Time of possession, 38-21 for the Texans. 38 minutes. That's like you people that were saying that this team quit in the fourth quarter. They were on the field for 38 minutes. 21 minutes of possession. 10 first downs for the offense. That is so bad. Alabama, I think, had more than 10 first downs in the first quarter yesterday. 93 yards passing. Woof. And the Titans were an abysmal 2 of 11 on third down. All right, let's hit the reaction here in the YouTube chat. I have starred things that I want to get to. The distinguished gentleman starts us off. He says, Cam wasn't good. He's a rookie, Jared, and his coaching ain't shit. See, this is how the cycle of blame works in the National Football League. I've talked about this many times because we went through the same thing with Marcus Mariota. And I think we can all agree Marcus Mariota is not very good. But when Marcus Mariota was struggling under Mike Mularkey, it was, oh, Mike Mularkey stinks. Terry Robisky, they're keeping the Maserati in the garage. Go get Matt LaFleur. He's going to turn Mariota into... Again, those are assumptions. That is wishful thinking. I wanted to think like that back then. I don't know if it's the coaching that's holding Cam back. I can tell you the coaching's not helping Cam, but I can't tell you it's holding it back. All I can go off is how the young man played. The young man played terribly. As he would say, ass was how he said his performance went yesterday. Johnny says, the excuses you have for Cam are the same excuses Levis had last year. So I have seen some people that have said this where they go, oh my God, this is the same stuff as last season. Levis, we're so sorry. Let's apologize to Levis. Dude, Levis got up there before the second game of the season and was talking about the Jets defense and talked about some imaginary player named DeMario when the Jets didn't have a DeMario on their team. And I laughed my ass off and I said, here we go. This is a quarterback who did not do his homework before getting up there to talk about the Jets, which makes me think he's not doing his homework at all. And people try to make excuses, but the truth is Levis he's not serious. He's not a serious starting quarterback in the NFL. Just because this team stinks without Levis does not mean that Will Levis doesn't stink. Levis stinks. The excuses, kind of the same, but a little different. Right now, this time last year, it was all Levis's fault. Callahan was the one who didn't get, well, he's got Levis as his quarterback. This year, Cam is the one who's not getting any blame, and the excuses are being made. And I'm telling you right now, I see serious problems in Cam's game that worry me. Todd says, 2nd and 33 was no issue for the Texans. The 0-3 sorry-ass Texans. The 0-3 sorry-ass Texans, who I believe came into this game with the 29th ranked offense in the National Football League. Guys, that's awful. That is awful. Mike Vrabel's burner says, I absolutely love Cam, but the Titans would be better off with Travis Hunter and a haul of picks. I asked this question to everybody. The distinguished gentleman. I'm going to ask this to you. Right now, Sam Darnold plus whoever you wanted to take at third. The Abdul Carter foot scared me. So there would have been a lot of choices for the third pick. Ashton Genty would have been an option, I think, at the third pick for me. Mason Graham would have been an option. Again, we kind of really focused in on Cam and Travis Hunter and Carter, and then it really became obvious they were going to take Cam. So I don't know exactly who I would have taken at 3. What I would have tried to do is I would have tried to trade that pick again. And I would have eventually tried to get to about 10, and then I would have drafted Matthew Golden. And I know Matthew Golden went to Green Bay in the teens or 20s or whatever, but I really like Matthew Golden. So that would have been my plan, is Darnold, Ridley, Golden, Dan Moore, and let's throw the ball down the field. But Darnold plus 3 plus 34 plus the Giants' 1st and 2nd next year. or Cam? Would you still rather, right now, knowing the state of the team, the state of the roster, would you still rather have Cam? And 3 years from now, Darnold plus those 4 picks and what they become, or Cam? And again, I will take Darnold plus the 4 picks. That's just me. Boy, that was a lot of value that they offered. JV says, we're going to break this man's spirit by year 3. It's 4 games in and he is already pissed. This team is ass. I like how he put it. Well, he was actually talking about his own game. When asked how he played today, he said he was ass. And he was bad. The one thing I'll say about Cam, and this is a defensive Cam as a potential number 1 pick. But the one thing I will say about Cam Ward, where I do give credit where credit is due, is I don't know if it's as easy as you think to break that man's spirit. Because I think that guy's got a pretty strong spirit. So I'm going to give him his due. And I'm going to say that I am not as worried about this team breaking his spirit. Nashville Jazz says, Coach Mack will have a lot of spinning to do this week. So I do listen to local radio, even though I'm not on it anymore. I do listen to it. You guys are going to have to tell me, has Coach Mack been pumping too much sunshine? I mean, look, that's part of the job. Coach Mack knows that. But has he been, saying, oh, it's not that bad. Callahan's doing a good job. Oh, Cam's coming along. Has he been doing that? Or has he been doing, which is the oldest trick in the book for a coach analyst of a team that doesn't want to get in trouble, is you can do 2 things. And I learned this from Terry Crisp, who is the expert when it comes to this kind of stuff, which when Crispy was doing a Preds broadcast and he would want to criticize the team a little bit, he would say something like, you heard what the coach said. The coach said that we got to play better in the second period. That second period, they came out. It was terrible. It was because he's using what the coach said. So, well, the coach will tell you. He told you right there. So is Coach Mack doing some of that? And then the other thing to do when you want to be critical, but you don't want to get yourself in trouble, is you start talking about what you have to do. So you could say things like, here's what they got to do. They've got to get there at practice today, and they've got to say X, Y, Z. Is he doing that? Or is he just, saying like, oh, fans, it's not that bad? And again, I haven't listened to any of Coach Mack on the on 104, so I couldn't tell you. But I mean, I haven't listened to it, but I am curious. Is it real ass kissy, or is it just like, hey man, he's just doing his job? Boy, the YouTube chat's all fired up talking about people who should be the coach and everything else. You're not going to hire a coach in the middle of the season. One person says, Jared, what bothers me the most is Callahan at halftime. Coach looked good in the quick tempo. We'll see more in the second half. And he responds with, I hope so. Well, Callahan's not coaching the team. I mean, as far as the calling the plays. So I don't think you can necessarily blame him on that. Now, he is the coach. So if he wanted to say something, all he's got to do is just say, hey, run the tempo, Bo. Because, again, he's the head coach, but who knows? Josh says, I can't believe Callahan didn't want to fight for his job. Down with 4 minutes to go, they went out and they punted. So I don't have a problem with that. The game was out of reach. He was basically conceding the game and basically saying like, okay, I don't want to get Cam popped. And then Houston, they conceded the game because they didn't try to run up the score. And the Titans kind of ran the clock out at the end and said, okay, let's all go on about our merry way. And if that's what you're upset about, like, it wouldn't have changed anything. I don't have a problem with that. To me, that would have been Callahan, trying to take his ego to say, oh, no, I will find a way. For what that's worth. So is this guy talking to me? Says, stop trying to find an excuse that the coach needs to be fired. You are losing a lot of money. Nobody does not want to see a losing team. Stop trying to find an excuse that the coach needs to be fired. I think the coach should be fired. They would have fired the coach last week. I don't know if the owner's going to fire the coach. So are you saying like, oh no, you're mad, Jared? Like you're making excuses to keep Callahan. I have no skin in Callahan's game. I think Callahan should be fired. But I don't know, A, how much it's going to change things, and B, the big thing is what's she going to do, and I don't know what she's going to do. Adrian says Callahan should have been fired in the offseason. Doing it now makes zero sense unless he's the scapegoat to the underlying issues for the Titans. Well, we all know what the problem with the Titans is, right? Like, we all know the problem is the owner. And the worst part about this, and you all know this, is that the one position you can't fire is the owner. Would Callahan being fired, would that solve all of the Titans' problems? Absolutely not. But Brian Callahan is a problem when it comes to this organization. Nobody's getting better. Nobody's being held accountable. If it came out after the fact that coaches were showing up late and leaving early, and you know how it kind of came out that Caleb Williams had nobody in that coaching staff with the Bears last year that wanted to watch film with him, and I have no idea if that's true or not, but if it came out that this coaching staff was half-assing it, I wouldn't be surprised, because Callahan doesn't hold people accountable. He just expects them to go out there and do the best. If I found out that with Mike Vrabel as the coach, people were half-assing it as coaches, I'd be surprised by that. I think Todd Downing's a pretty terrible coach. I don't think he's lazy, because I don't think you can do that with Vrabel. So I don't even know where that rant came from, but I do think that Callahan should be fired and that he can't hold anybody accountable. Forrest says this team is total trash. We need 2 ends, a corner, a number 1 receiver, a tackle, a coach, and Ward is looking bad. Yeah. Again, I go back to that list Kaharski put out this week after they traded away Jarvis Brownlee, saying that when they hit the offseason, they're going to need a number 1 edge rusher, a number 1 wide receiver, a number 1 corner because they're going to cut Snead, and Snead sucks anyways, another starting corner because they traded Brownlee, a number 1 running back because Tony Pollard is old. I would say throw in tight end because Chig Okonkwo is not a starting tight end and his contract's up at the end of the year. Roger McCreary's a free agent. So you're going to need another. There's going to be so much shit that you need to go get this offseason. That's why all the picks are so important. And they looked at it like Cam was Joe Burrow and we'll draft Cam and figure out the rest. And I just don't believe in that unless Cam is some sort of superstar player. And I don't think Cam's that talented. I think Cam is talented. I don't think he's that talented. I think Andrew Luck is that talented. I don't think Cam is that talented. One person says, Cam ain't it. Bad footwork, sidearm throws, no touch. That either has to get better or he won't be it. Scott says all he does is throw sidearm. Again, at 6'2", he's not going to be able to throw sidearm in the pocket. The ball will get batted down as it got tipped today. And tipped passes, as we saw with the off-balance throw to Io Manor, which hit him in the hand and popped in the air, sometimes lead to interceptions. One person says, Amy needs to clean house now. So I wrote this in my notes for today's postgame show, that kind of the tease for tomorrow's show, for tomorrow's Titans Monday show at 2:00 is, let's say I bought the team tomorrow. I've always talked about this, about, you know, if I invested in Fuzz Tech and Fuzz Tech exploded, you know, some biomechanical tech stock that's the next big breakthrough. And let's say I inherited $100 billion tomorrow. So I can do whatever I want. Well, I would try to buy the Titans. I would buy the Atlanta Braves, which I know I can because they're a publicly traded company. So if I went to Liberty Media and I said, hey, I'd like to buy the Braves for $3 billion, and they said, you can't, then I'd say, okay, $8 billion. And now they have to accept it because it's way overvalued, and I don't give a shit. I've got $100 billion. I just want to buy the Braves. I'd also buy the Titans. And so, again, I wouldn't have done anything that the Titans have done up until this point. I wouldn't have drafted Cam Ward. I would not have made Chad Brinker the czar of football operations. I would not have hired Mike Borgonzi. I wouldn't have done any of that. But that's spilt milk. It's already happened. So what would I do if I bought the team tomorrow? That will be the theme of tomorrow's show, which is basically the way of saying, if Amy decides to pull her head out of her ass and say, yeah, okay, fine, I know I've had a lot of terrible decisions over the last 3 years, but now I'm ready just to blow it up. What should I do? And that's going to be the theme of tomorrow's program. But I do agree that until she blows it up at some point, it's going to be all the same stuff. It's going to be musical blame. It's going to be, okay, now we trust Brinker. Oh, we don't trust him anymore. Now we trust Borgonzi. Oh, we don't trust him anymore. Now we trust Jared. Jessica says he's not going to be able to handle these pressers if they keep losing and she doesn't let him go. Hey, I'll give Callahan some credit today. I wish he would have gone there with Paul. I understand why he didn't go there with Paul. Again, the beef in the press conference was, are they still playing hard? I think they're still playing hard. I know quitters when I see it. I don't think they, as an organization, have quit. Man, I think old buddy on the YouTube chat that we're like, who is this guy talking about? I think this guy is kind of nuts. I've never blocked somebody off the YouTube chat. This might be one. Toby says, Ward looking bad. Ward is looking bad. The team looks bad. Everybody looks bad. The concern is Ward has looked worse each game. I thought Cam was terrible today. Outside of that throw where he threw it across his body on the first drive, and then the next play was a Will Levis special where he tried to give the ball to the other team. One person says, do you think we're screwed regardless because of Amy? Short answer, yes. Longer answer, yes. I mean, I think Amy fucked up when she fired Robinson in the middle of the year. And again, Robinson, you can bitch about his picks all you want. They weren't good at the end, but fire the guy in the middle of the season while they're in first place, I thought was so stupid. And I think she did it because I think she knew they were going to win the division. And I think she thought if we win the division and it's 3 in a row and we go to the playoffs 4 years in a row and who knows what happens in the playoffs, I can't fire him because I fired Mike Mularkey after we made the playoffs and I looked like an idiot then. So A.J. Brown just ripped our ass and now I can fire him. And so that's why she did what she did. I understand why she did what she did. I also thought it was stupid. I mean, I think that there are a lot of things people do where I understand why they did it. I think it's stupid, but I get it. Maddie says this team sucks because of 5 years of personnel mismanagement. These clowns are clueless. It's not really how it works. Like, I know it's easy to say that, oh, well, look at all the picks and the 2020 draft picks and so many people missed on draft picks in 2020. The Eagles missed on Jalen Reagor. I think the Eagles are doing okay. It's really more the last 3 years that have just been a train wreck. And that includes Robinson at the end with the A.J. Brown trade, for sure. But to me, it's stuff like getting rid of Derrick Henry, not having a better backup quarterback for Will Levis so that you couldn't switch to that in the middle of last season, and not having a right tackle for 3 years, and I can go on and on and on. The YouTube chat, I guess, really got into it today about Cam Ward versus Will Levis. That's how bad it is at this point in time. David says they were winning and she was out showing off everywhere. Now she's not out nowhere talking publicly. You know what's so funny is that's what I think led to really the downfall of the organization between Amy Robinson and Vrabel. And I think Amy's got some lieutenants in there who act like they don't want a piece of the pie, but they want a piece of the pie. They act like, hey, things aren't working out, but that's okay. and it's not my fault because I'm not involved. But if things were good, they'd be like, that's my organization. I helped them hire that guy. That's just me. But again, what I think happened was between Robinson, Vrabel, and Amy is they all felt like they were a part of the success and that the other two weren't really seeing that. And so they felt disrespected and at the same time felt like they were the reason for the success. And that led to everybody pointing the finger at each other and everybody, not wanting to work together. And that's what's led to this mess. One person said, we don't need to blame Amy. We need to blame John Robinson. Yeah, he didn't take the guard with the 11th pick. The guard who, by the way, Twitter told me is the best guard in the league and got fucking blown up early in the game. If you take a guard with the 11th pick, he should never get blown up. He should be one of those guys like Trent Williams, where you look at his PFF stats and it's like never gives up a sack if you use an 11th pick on the guard. All right, hope everybody enjoyed Postgame Live tonight. That's it for us here on 440 Sports. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central Time, and of course, wherever you get your podcast is where we will be. And again, the theme of tomorrow's show, we will continue to react, and this may just go all down the drain because she might fire him. I mean, it's certainly on the table. But as of right now, the theme for tomorrow's show is, if I bought the Titans tomorrow, I almost said Tartans. If I bought the Titans tomorrow, what would I do? That's the question. If I bought the Titans tomorrow, what would I do? That's what we're going to discuss. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of the program today. Again, like and subscribe. And we, of course, will be back next week for Postgame Live. And I may have an emergency podcast tonight at the halftime of the Sunday Night Football game. Depends on how I feel. Because I do have a lot of college football thoughts that I want to get out. And tomorrow will be a Titans Monday. But college game day, Vanderbilt, Alabama, I'm very excited about that. So I may want to get through that. So we will continue on. Still, Billy's, thank you. Again, like and subscribe. And we will for sure see everybody tomorrow live on YouTube at 2.